Welcome to the Photo Art Series presented by B&H Photo and Skylum, curator of Luminar Neo. Hi, I'm Vanelli, the Director of Education for Skylum, and I'm really excited to introduce to you my next guest, extremely energetic, motivational, and the work she does with animals is outstanding. You may recognize her from her TV show she had, Paparazzi, where she flew in, worked at a kill shelter to photograph these incredible animals to try to get them adopted, and then went on to broadcast or produce the actual show, came back, checked on the dogs, and then headed back out. So you can see why I look at her using her photography skills in such high regard. Please welcome my good friend, Kaylee Greer. Hello, Kaylee.
Ta-da! Hey, Vanelli, it's so good to be here. I am so excited to talk to you today. You are just a breath of fresh air. You, my friend, are a bright light, and I am so happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. And B&H was so excited when I mentioned your name. There was like a pause. They're like, really? Wow, she'll come on? Yes, she'll come on. She loves you guys, and she loves what she does. And what's really cool is, well, we were in, where was it? The WPPI. And my team leader, Asia, she kept staring at you, and she had this grin from ear to ear. And I looked over at her, and I'm like, Asia, what is it? I know her. I said, yes, Kaylee Greer. No, you don't understand. She had a book in Ukraine. One of her friends gave it to her as a Christmas present. It was yours.
That is so wild. It's so wild to think that this crazy, weird, wild, wacky dog photography journey of mine has reached the farthest edges of the earth in some cases. So cool to know that my book is in Ukraine. That's really neat.
Well, and actually, and then when we were in England, it was the second time ever at the photography show, your book was sold out, right?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, and actually, second time ever, only after the man himself, Scott Kelby. Scott Kelby was the first person to ever sell out his book at that particular show with our publisher, and then mine did after, years later. That's awesome. I'm just so humbled, just so incredibly humbled.
And just for everyone to listen, we were at dinner, and I had to call Scott to tell him. And Scott's like, oh my God, put her on. And I gave you the phone. And it just shows how with photography, we learn from each other, and we're on each other's shoulders all the way up through. And it's great to see. So for you watching her today, please don't hesitate to ask a ton of questions, because it's not like Kaylee's saying, you know what, I got this secret, I don't want anyone else to know. She shares with everyone. In fact, that did happen when we were in Las Vegas, and the young guy came over and handed me the phone and said, here, could you take the picture with you, Sam, and Unmesh?
Yeah.
And you were like, my generation, my time is slowly going behind. You guys are the new generation that needs to come up through. And it was just awesome. It was awesome to see how each person would say, wow, you made my photography that much better. So
yeah,
awesome. Well, I'm going to share my screen first, because we have a lot of incredible images to share with you. So let me do this. Let me get that going first. All right, now you're able to see my screen?
I can see it. I think the world can see it.
Look at this. That is such an amazing shot. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to break down the photo. You're kind of get into the head, which is kind of dangerous. We're going to get into the mind of Kaylee and how she created this. And then you and Sam do amazing stuff with light. So, and then we'll break it down on what gear you used. So for those people that are interested, and you're wondering, do you already have the gear or what you need to catch similar images? All right, so let's look at this shot here.
The first thing you need is a crazy epic rainstorm. So you got to start with that.
Oh, so you didn't create this?
No, this was,
wow.
So let me tell you I'll try and make it very quick. As you know, I'm not known for my brevity, but I think that we both share in that. So yes. I will try. Well, I will try to make it succinct. But basically, I was on a shoot for a big commercial pet food brand client of mine. This is an awesome company. They've hired me a number of times now. So this was maybe my third or fourth time working with them. So the good news was that I was really comfortable with them, and kind of with, their people, and we're all on location, and we have this dog model, kind of signed up to show up at a certain time, right? And we're shooting imagery for actually these were going to be printed 9 feet tall. It was actually going to be cropped vertical, and it was going to be printed 9 feet tall for the commercial kitchens. They have like facilities all over the US where they make the dog food. And so these were going to be kind of like almost like decor, for commercial decor. So I knew it was going to be really big, and a lot of pressure, the pressure was on, and that we're there, and some of the people from the company are there, and then we're waiting for this dog model to come, and the weather wasn't looking good, but we had our fingers really crossed that we might be able to just make it out of this thing dry before the rain started. But right as the dog model rolled up with its owner, the heavens just opened up, and it was in the middle of the summer in Pennsylvania. It was absolutely pouring down rain. Luckily, the good news was like no lightning or thunder, which meant we could still work in it. We were just going to get absolutely soaked. And I thought, okay, like don't panic, right? Everybody's here. Everybody's watching. I have to figure something out. So we decided this stump right here that you see in this image, if you look through my portfolio, you'll actually probably see the same stump quite a lot because I bought it at a grocery store. It's made for like camping. Like if you're going camping, it's kind of pre-scored at the top so that you can just hack it into firewood basically. But I thought, oh my gosh, how perfect is that stump? It's the best thing to put a little dog on when you're out in the world and you're looking to get a photo where you can get the dog up off the ground on an element that still looks cool and natural in the scene, right? So I picked up the stump. I thought, okay, I'll bring the stump out. I'll put the little dog up on the stump. And then if I can find like a patch of open sky, then I can kind of like bring my exposure, right? Bring the ambient light of my exposure down to make the sky look really epic and really kind of like a superhero poster, right? Like for a superhero movie. And then I'll add light to the front of the dog. And I thought, but what if I used additional lighting behind the dog? So this, in this case, is a small flash, and it's honest to God, it's a crappy flash I got off of Amazon probably 8 or 9 years ago. It's called you might have heard of the brand. It's like Young Nuo, and it was like Nuo. Young Nuo. That's it. Yeah.
And it has a lot of that.
Okay. At the time it was like $30. And so it's kind of like this disposable thing that I can put out in the rain. I'm not worried about it. Right. So I get this thing out. It's got an optical trigger on it, which is so beautiful because it means I can just use my normal strobe in the front. I don't have to worry about wires or cords. Right. I put this little tiny flash behind the stump, maybe about 2 feet behind the stump, and then let the turn on the optical trigger so that when my strobe in the front goes off to light the dog in the front, it's going to then optically trigger the back little light at the same time to then light up the raindrops in the sky all around the dog. So that was a moment of panic again, because my client's there and the pressure's on and everyone's absolutely soaked. I mean, it was crazy. It was actually a riot. But in the end, it turns out, and lucky for me, this little dog was like super comfortable with all the weird gear, right? Like all the lighting, and also with the rain. She just kind of sat there like a little princess. It was perfect.
Oh my God. Well, so this is what I got from this, which I really liked. I love the idea that you pivoted. As a photographer, you had in your set mind, no, we're going to do a shoot this way. Well, Mother Nature had something else in store. And I like the idea that the props you picked up at a grocery store and not just at a, down at a prop store. Well, that's neat. And I do like the concept when you talk about your camera settings, you expose for the element you can't control, which was the background. Mm-hmm. And you decided to make that much more dramatic by lowering the exposure for that and then using the light for the fill. And I loved your concept of the 2 lights. Now, what is your main light that you usually shoot with? Your main light?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is a Profoto B1 with a beauty dish in the front. I'm looking at, sometimes I'm using a softbox, but I'm looking at the catch light in this little guy's eye, and that is going to be a beauty dish. Yeah. So there's a beauty dish in the front, and then the little tiny, just
Young Nuo,
unmodified Young Nuo in the back, just a bare flash.
And you're funny you're saying that because for B&H, I am going to work on a good, better, best. And Profoto, of course, in the best category. The good categories are the Young Nuos. Some of the lower, there's speed flashes, Godoxes, but then in the middle, I can't believe how Godox and some of the stuff they've been doing have increased tremendously. But you're right. I look at the young mule as a disposable flash.
Yeah.
If it got screwed up during that rain,
Yeah.
of course. Now, as a portrait photographer, honestly, I really thought you created a rain machine. And you put,
Yeah.
But so now I'm more impressed that you
That's
pivoted
kind.
the way you did.
I've never used a rain machine. I don't know where to acquire. I don't know where one acquires. Okay.
It's so easy. PVC pipe and sprinklers.
Get out. Okay.
But look, I mean, that now for your editing with this, obviously the blue tones, just give like an overall idea to get that type of grit look. See if I can zoom in. No, I can't actually. Nope, I can't. But to get that type of look that you go for, you rely more on. I'm trying to think. See in Photoshop in Luminar Neo we have the dramatic slider, so I'm trying to think of the equivalent would be more clarity.
Clarity, exactly. Yeah. So that's exactly what I was going to say there, is that clarity slider is pretty friendly for skies like this. It really helps kind of amp them up and give them some drama, Also, the dehaze slider in Lightroom is a really awesome place to start. It's very heavy-handed, so you have to be a little careful, especially because dehaze introduces sometimes like a color. I don't want to say color cast, but it makes everything quite blue, right? So if you're dragging like a dehaze, maybe linear gradient over the sky, it's going to introduce a lot of blue that might not have been there. So you have to be a little careful with that. If that looks too blue when you drag dehaze over, then go back to clarity. It kind of does a similar thing, but the dehaze is definitely my friend. I do like to use a linear gradient and drag it from the top of the sky kind of down towards the horizon, and then use the magic of the masks in Lightroom, and then just literally say select subject, and then remove that effect from the subject. Exactly. So it goes behind the dog. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. And keep in mind, everyone, if you notice again, well, Vanilla, you're with Luminar Neo, and here you're talking about Lightroom. It plays well with both programs. Lightroom and Neo play well together. Lightroom or Neo and Photoshop. So what we're trying to teach you here is not just application specific, but concepts in theory. And then that's the big part about this. But Kayla, that's an absolutely amazing shot.
Thank
this
you.
Shot. I just, our good friend Jay Maisel always say light and gesture, right? And color. Well, come on, gesture. How did you get these amazing dogs? How'd you get them to? How did you get them to pose like this?
Well, so working as a dog photographer, it's kind of a funny job. First of all, it's still funny to me that I can say that. I'm so grateful. It's the best job in the world. But it means that you're working with, live animals, right? So you're working with all kinds of different dogs. So you'll get dogs that are highly trained, right? Like their families just really pay attention to their training, and they come really like experts, 10 out of 10. They know how to sit, they know how to stay, they know how to give their paw, right? They know how to lay down, roll over, whatever. That is the minority. Typically the clients, my clients come along with dogs that are just normal dogs. Like they might not be like terribly behaved, but they're just normal dogs that just kind of like lay around on the couch all day and fart and pee on things. You know what I mean? They're just normal. So you got to kind of use what motivates the dog to get them to work with you. And because I'm using a lot of like gear and lighting and things like that, stuff can be kind of scary, right? So it's really important to prioritize the dog's like level of comfortability and the kind of the safety of the whole thing, and their body language before anything else, right? So before I can get out like the big guns, which would be my wide angle lens, my Canon 11 to 24 mil, which means that if I'm shooting at 11 mil, I'm quite literally like, 3 inches from the dog's face typically to get this like bobbly wide angle sort of effect. But I can't really do that until the dogs are super comfortable. These two dogs right here, these two Bernese Mountain Dogs belong to a private client who I had photographed for before, actually, I photographed her previous Bernese Mountain Dogs. And then she had 2 like new ones that she had brought into the family. And this was like the second time I worked with her. So I kind of knew that she was like a great trainer. Her dogs were pretty well trained, but their body language in this photo is like excellent. It's really, it's like loose. It's kind of waggy. They look comfortable. All the signs are there that they're like happy to be in this situation, which is those slightly open mouths with those like casual tongues hanging out that aren't really lolling out of their mouth. And then also their ears that are really kind of relaxed. Typically you'll see like a lot of like tension in a dog's ears if they're not feeling comfortable. So there's like a lot of little subtle body language cues that the dogs are giving that kind of tell you like, hey, we're comfortable, we're happy to be here, which is the number one thing I think you have to tackle as an animal, dog, pet photographer, right? Is making sure your animal's comfortable, because you certainly can't explain to them like what you're doing and why you're doing it, you know?
No, this is great. So the advice I'm hearing that you're giving to pet owners, if you're a photographer, you want to photograph your own pets, you can't do it alone. You have to have somebody with you to entertain the pets, to get the pets feeling comfortable. And like what you said, there was a lot of pre-prep that went on, because I can't imagine you just walking up like a regular portrait. All right, models, take your stage, do this, all right, click, we're done, let's go home for the day. Here, it seems like you have to play with the pets, make them feel comfortable, have the owner by your side. And while you're photographing, where do you usually have your handler, the owner? You have them behind you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Behind me, usually. Yeah. And it's funny too, because often I'm like laying down on the ground on my stomach, right? To get this angle, I'm really low. So I'm laying down on the ground on my stomach and my feet are straight back. And I always say to the owners, listen, I have no personal bubble. Sit on my butt. So I have them kind of like, stand over me, and then often like ask them to sit on my back or my butt so that they look. And
that's perfect, because the eye, you see the pet's eyes. And I did send you a while back some photos I did of a kitten, and I was like, oh God, Kaylee, let's not forget, I'm still a portrait guy.
Yeah.
But I did a favor for a friend. But if it wasn't for my son, who said, let me step in, and he just got the kittens entertained, excited, do all these funny things. And that's how I got the shots in here. I'm envisioning you laying down, and you said, what lens were you using?
This would have been, okay, so this was before I got my 11-24. So this was a 16-35.
Wow.
That was my widest baby lens before I got my 11-24. So that was my favorite until I graduated.
Yeah. So what's your favorite lens now, you're saying?
It's definitely the Canon 11-24.
11-24.
And so I know Sony has an equivalent. Sony has a 12-24, if I'm not mistaken. And I know Nikon, I don't know if Nikon, I feel 14. Like 14 is there. I think 14 is their widest.
Yeah, but bottom line, what she's saying is these are the ultra wide angle lenses, not just the regular lenses. And your aperture, just out of curiosity, what do you like to shoot? Like a scene like this, what do you like your aperture to be?
So if I'm lucky enough and there's enough light, I really like to be at like f/20 if I can.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I asked that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
In this case, I don't think I quite was, because if you look at those trees in the background, that tree line back there, there's no way that's f/20. And also the light is quite low, right? Because this is sunset. So I'm going to guess you won't be able to pull it up, but I think I'm going to guess it's more like an f/8 right here.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're saying that. Because again, portrait photographers, we love to live in the range of 2.8.
Right. And I get that. So, when I'm shooting with like a prime lens and it's like natural light, I definitely love a 1.2, if you know what I mean. So I like extremes. I really like extremes. So I'll do this type of shot for a while, and then if I'm making, for example, maybe I'm making an album for a client and I want to get variety. Well, then I'll switch over to like a 50 mil at 1.2 or 1.4 and really change up the look, whether it's with lighting, without lighting, with neutral density filters, maybe. But yeah, just to give some variety. I like to do that too. And I hate to admit,
you just motivated me. I'm trying. I'm redoing the portrait sessions with my cats. And my friends' cats. But I love that. I love the idea wide. And I love the idea of extremes. And then again, notice for this particular shot here, to capture the relaxation of the dogs, they had to be relaxed. And the owner or their handler, they're looking at the owner, and if they see
Yeah.
the owner interacting with you,
Yeah.
now they feel safe.
Yeah, exactly. They look to the owner and they say, oh, okay, she's there, or he's there, or whatever, and everything is good, because they're giving me the cue that
Exactly.
that this person with this clicky black box in my face is safe.
Oh, that's awesome. I just realized you and I are getting so engrossed with each other. I forgot to ask, are there any questions and answers coming in? I feel a little guilty that I'm kind of like having you answer my questions because I'm so excited about this.
Listen, I'm thrilled, but yes, I'm open. I'm wide open to questions from the audience.
Yeah. So Barb asked the lighting, any lighting on this image, and yes, we talked. That was probably in the last image, but yes, of course, we just went through the lighting, and we have that all set.
Yeah,
now,
and there's lighting on this one too. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you noticed, I mean, in my opinion, you use the lighting because you're just bringing out those rich colors of their coat.
Yeah, it brings out this incredible texture in the dog's fur. And then also when you have a black dog or dogs like this that are kind of tricolored, multicolored, it really helps you kind of push some like detail and data into the dark parts. So you can kind of fill them with light, not overly so. It should be really kind of soft and beautiful and not like hard and pointed, of course, right? Like I suppose that's portrait 101. But
and then from here, yeah. So to bring out more of the color the way you're doing it, what do you do? What did you use? I mean, obviously you're saying you're using Lightroom in this. What are you doing to draw out some more of those colors?
Well, again, really my big secret hack really has a lot to do with the sky. And again, with the linear gradient, bringing it down from the top of the frame towards the horizon. And then making sure that that goes behind the dogs, right? Like you want to select the subject and put them up on their own layer and protect them from anything too crunchy or crazy. And then kind of just adding a little dehaze. I mean, plus 12, plus 10, plus 12, anything more than that gets insane. But that really helps bring out like the texture in the clouds and adds a little color, the real color that was there. I never like change the colors of skies or anything, but I'll just amp it up. What was really there gets amped up. So this just happened to be, in this case, one of those days with one of those incredible skies. Yes.
Yeah, yes and no. And I think, honestly, I mean, I could give you a set of eggs and you're going to make different types of omelets and any other person in the world's going to make. I think that you see something like this and you conform it to what you want it to be. Now, I can't wait to show you some of our AI masking in Luminar Neo, because everything you're saying to me, I'm trying to recreate on how I would do it. And with everything you're saying, like the isolation of the animals versus the background, absolutely amazing. Barb has another question. Do you feel that the flash bothers the animals?
That's also a great question. Yes, sometimes there are certain dogs that cannot handle it. I take a long time at the beginning of my sessions to really acclimate the dogs to all my gear, to me, to my smells, right? And I always bring lots of good stuff, lots of treats, really high value stuff to get them comfortable with me, kind of moving towards me, feeling safe with me. Lots of playing. I'll bring a ball or a stick and, just kind of play fetch with them and build up that rapport, if you will. And often if I do that, I mean, some dogs it takes 10 minutes of that and they're fine. Other dogs take I just had a session the other day where it took a full hour, almost 90 minutes of that, to get the dog even remotely comfortable. Because when the flash goes off, or I shouldn't say flash, like when the strobe kind of hits, right? It's a big light, number one. And number two, it kind of makes a bit of a popping sound, like the actual firing of the physical like filament or whatever in the light. And that can almost emanate like a feeling of lightning, like thunder and lightning. And that is really scary. Innately, lightning is incredibly scary for a lot of dogs. That's a pretty common fear in dogs. So can be really hard to get them comfortable. There are certain dogs that are just kind of, I call them bomb proof. So they just really are comfortable with mostly anything. And then other dogs, maybe you have a dog that came from the shelter, and he had a hard upbringing or a background where you don't know a lot about it. And he went through some scary things in life. Those dogs are much less receptive to the lighting, in which case sometimes I'll move away from using a wide angle and I'll try like maybe a 50 mil and I'll still try to use the lighting, but from much further away. And if I can't do that, then I get out the old trusty 70 to 200 and I pull off the shoot with basically 200 millimeters the whole time. So I'm never in the dog's space.
Nice. So once again, pivoting. So That's great. That's great to hear. So if the flash does bother them, you just try to acclimate them until you can get it. Have you ever dealt with one that you just, no matter what you did, you could not get the animal to, or the dog to handle the flash?
Yes. There have been maybe like, let's say for every 100 photo shoots I have, there'll be like 3 dogs that just absolutely can never come around to it. Those dogs are pretty like more on the extreme side. I've had shoots where I have my male like counterpart. He does my lighting. He's my assistant. I've had shoots where he had to fully go back to the car. He couldn't even be involved or in the area at all. Wow. Because the dog was so afraid of Ben. So you got to really adapt. So you never know. It's a lot of internal panicking and going, oh my God, am I a fraud or can I pull this off today?
Yeah. So the key there for people that are just starting out with it, I mean, don't panic. If that happens, just know that it's not the norm. So to stress out before the photo shoot, before it even happens, it's not worth it. It's not worth stressing out before. Go in with the mindset of, hey, this is gonna be the most absolutely amazing shot you've ever seen. So, all right, we have 2 more quick questions.
Cool.
What would you say is the most? In fact, let me just switch. This. What would you say is the most important aspect of pet photography for first timers when learning?
I think the absolute most important base level thing you have to master is dog body language. Like, I don't want to say dog training specifically, but I do always say that people who come to dog photography or pet photography from a former life and career as a dog trainer have a massive leg up on the rest of us because they already have the incredible foundational kind of knowledge of how dogs work, how they think, how they move, the expressions they're going to give you are really a big part of dog photography, right? Because it's a visual still image of a singular moment, and that dog should look happy and comfortable, or stoic and serene or regal or whatever you're looking for, right? But you need to know kind of how to create situations that evoke those emotions. Because I mean, I will tell you, I've had photo shoots where I've made the mistake of starting it off maybe on the wrong foot, like energy wise, like maybe I got too excited, or maybe I accidentally blasted open my circular reflector too fast near a dog. And then suddenly the whole shoot is over because I kind of took a misstep because I didn't think about the dog's kind of perception of how that was going to how they were going to see that. And so it could be really scary. And then they shut down and they have no interest in being near you. And you're like, oh my gosh, I kind of screwed that one up. And I've had a couple of situations like that.
You just described a photo shoot with children.
Yes. It can be very similar. It can be very similar. I can imagine. Yeah.
All right. So this shot here, I love the what do you call it? The split, half underwater, half up on top. And of course, now I got to ask: did you add the starburst, or is that something that you captured in camera?
I appreciate you asking. I love to like break down these photos and kind of what went on behind the scenes. And no, that's not added. That's just real life.
Yeah, I can tell because of on the left side of it, the light leaks. Yeah, the left side coming through.
It's funny. I thought about removing those and post too, like the ones way on the left, and then I'm like thinking, like you never want anything to look too perfect because then people just assume it's fake. It's not real. You didn't go there, and it's gotten even worse for me in that way with like AI, right? Because people are like, oh, it must be generated. No one would actually go swim out to the middle of this lake, right? And these images were all created. Like this was from 2017, so this would be like well before AI was really available to us as photographers in, the current technology, like, Photoshop and Luminar and, these things. So,
so let's break this down. How did you get the split? Half on the water?
So I have an Ike underwater housing for this would have been for my Canon 5D Mark III. I actually have a newer housing now, but this was the older one that I was using. And that was my Mark III. And I got that because I'm personally such a swimmer. I love the water. I'm totally like just obsessed with being in the water. I love to spend time with dogs in water. And I always thought as I was getting these photos of dogs, like maybe they're swimming, right? And I've got their chest and their head like half out of the water. I always would think, what does it look like under there? Like how cool would it be to see the feet, right? And to see the feet in the rocks and maybe the paws kind of flapping around under there. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I should get an underwater housing and start to explore that. But a lot of my style relies really heavily on lighting. And so I thought, oh my God, how could I incorporate lighting into half underwater when my light stays above the water? So I ended up finding a like a professional dive photographer who lived generally in my area, a couple hours away. And I got in contact with him and I talked to him about my idea and asked him how feasible it was. And he ended up custom building me a rig that supports underwater and above water lighting simultaneously. So he welded like special cables together that could go underwater and then go into my underwater housing. So I can light the beneath and the above at the same time, which means I can get that even exposure throughout. Now, I will be honest and tell you that my underwater lights often misfire. They often are problematic, and sometimes they don't even go off, and I still really like the look of the images and use them. And in this case, I'm almost sure that that underwater light did not go off, but it was bright enough out in the general atmosphere, you know, that it was fine. Yeah, and I lifted the shadows probably pretty heavily from the underneath so you could really see,
But,
you know what I mean?
So for this shot, you do have the camera in a water housing or?
Yep.
Okay. So the lens is part underwater.
You got
part
it.
up on top.
Yep. You got it. And this rock wasn't really that close to shore. We had to swim out to it. And it was,
wow.
Yeah, with the dog and all the gear. It was really quite a riot because the underwater lights are fine to be in the water. So I can just let them float as I swim.
Yep.
But the above water light cannot be in the water. It's a pro photo B1. You know what I mean? It can't. So my assistant, Sam, who's just incredible at what he does, he's always doing crazy stuff on dog photo shoots for me. And he's like swimming out with holding the light straight above his head to try to get out to this rock so it doesn't get wet. Talk about like a good like drill for Marines or something, you know what I mean? To just like swim with a B1 above your head.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Now, okay, so the eyes, do you take liberty in embellishing the eyes?
A little bit, yeah. So you can really kind of sparkle and shine and maybe like get dew up, if that makes sense, like get the dog's eyes a little bit more dewy than maybe they really would be. It a little bit more so than you can with humans. With humans, eye stuff starts to look pretty weird pretty fast, you know? So but with dogs, because they have such beautiful eyes that are quite shiny typically anyway, especially when they're youthful, it's okay to push them a little bit. I found, you know, just to push them a little bit harder than you would with the humans. So basically I give them like a high pass sharpen and a little bit of brightening to the colored part of the iris, so you know that they look just a little bit more like kind of glossy and dewy and youthful, you know?
Awesome. All right. And another quick question, Barb, she asked, strobe with umbrella or soft box? And you answered that.
Yeah. In this case, this would have been my travel. This was in Lake Tahoe. I live in the Northeast. And so the Lake Tahoe is a pretty decently far trip. So I would have been traveling, which means I had my travel beauty dish, which is a Westcott rapid box. Which collapses and can go right into my luggage, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's see. There's that stump.
Isn't that yes? It's so funny you say that. Yes, you start to recognize the stump in all my photos.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Okay.
And this little dog, what I loved about this was the scale, because this little dog was Chihuahua. I think she's a Chihuahua Yorkie mix, like I don't know what you say, Chiorkie. I don't know. There's names for these things now. But she was tiny and pretty much brand new, very young. So a small puppy. And I thought, oh, how cool, the scale with the big giant blades of grass and having her kind of dwarfed, right? And because when I'm using a wide angle lens like this, I can get really close to her but wide enough that I have this like surrounding grass in the scene. And then those grasses get distorted. The perspective gets so distorted. It sort of feels like Alice in Wonderland. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. So first of all, did you take art classes or graphic arts or something?
I took I had like a relatively strong, well, I took visual arts in college was my minor. It was my major was biology. My minor was visual arts, kind of in communication, right? So like I did a lot of like painting and sculpting and
Gotcha.
weird things that like I didn't necessarily ever think would come around to being a part of like my creative career. But I think in a way, all those things do shape your creative like vision, right? Like the way you see the world. And I took a lot of film courses too in college, but they were, like photography courses, but they were all film. So I thought, it was kind of cumbersome. I loved it, but it was cumbersome. It was black and white. It was expensive for a college student, right? To be buying film and all the chemicals for the darkroom and all this. So I never thought in a million years that I could be like a photographer as a career for a job. It seemed like it was not within the scope of reality or what you're allowed to do in life, which is so weird, right?
I'm glad you chose that and not
you.
become a biology teacher.
Yeah, me too.
The reason why I'm asking, because again, I'm just watching you and Sam walking in the grocery store. Hey, honey, look at that stub. It's supposed to be firewood. Yeah, just grab it. We're going to use it as a prop. And I love the idea. Small dog, huge blades of grass. So that's why I asked if you took those courses. Now, I love how the ears are up. We had somebody on YouTube ask us, a TKA buddy asked on YouTube, how do you deal with the ears like a Doberman? And here you embrace them.
Do they mean like when a dog's ears are, I wonder when they say Doberman.
Like, the dogs, like I do this a lot. I'll do that little chirp.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden the dog has this weird look on their face. Like, what the heck was that? The inquisitive look, or their ears kind of pop up. But with Dobermans, I think he's asking, like with their ears being so like, well, here, like this, with the ears so high, how did you get the ears up like that?
Yeah, well, I gotta say, in this case, this little dog's ears are just like biologically formed that way. Like they're always up, right? And I have a dog like that too. She has really sticky up ears that are just fabulous. They're gorgeous. But my other dog has kind of floppy ears. So it's really important to get those ears kind of pricked up for a photo because it makes them look incredibly engaged, right? And it looks interested, attention, engaged is the ears up with a dog. That's when they're alert and kind of a part of the process. So yeah, like you said, making crazy sounds. I have all kinds of weird things I bring to photo shoots, like duck calls, squeakers. I had to go to like the hunting section of like a Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever, right, to get like a duck call or like a rabbit call. And it's a bit strange, but dogs haven't really heard those sounds before. So they're unique and novel, right? So I talk about that in my book a lot. My book is called Dogtography, a knock your socks off guide to capturing the best dog photos on earth. You can get it on my publisher's website, rockynook.com, or on Amazon. And I talk all about the things that I kind of use at photo shoots to get dogs' attention. And there is a photo in there. It's like a lay flat photo showing the contents of the inside of what I call my crazy dog lady bag, which has all the tools that I use at any given photo shoot. There's a Technicolor photo of all that in the book.
Nice. All right, two more quick questions. I haven't embraced it yet, but LEDs versus flash. Have you embraced the LEDs yet?
So all right, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to sound stupid, but I think that it is my ice light, my Westcott ice light that's an LED. Yeah. Okay. I thought so. Yes. Continuous. Yes. And actually that's harkening back to Barb's question earlier. That's a really great way. Using a continuous light is a great way to deal with those dogs that can't handle that flashing of a strobe. So if you're working now, the problem with an LED is it's not really going to work or show up very well until the ambient light is quite dim, right? So it's got to be like twilight, sunset, twilight. It's going to be pretty dark out for that to show up. But I have successfully used ice lights to create the same effect that you're seeing in my imagery with dogs that couldn't handle the flash of a strobe. So I definitely have. I use my Westcott ice light quite a bit, actually. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Dale, you remember Dale? One of my right-hand guys helping me on Luminar coffee break.
Yes, hello.
So Dale says, do you ever crop just in the face? Here's an example. And he mentions like sleeping. I don't know. Like I've always been from the old school. When you're photographing babies sleeping, just laying in the crib,
Yeah.
it's not really that attractive unless you
Yeah.
mold them and shape them into something to where they don't look just there.
Yeah.
I would assume animals are the same way. If they don't have that peaceful look, why photograph them sleeping?
Yeah. I hear you. That's so interesting. So was the question, do I photograph animals sleeping?
Yeah.
Oh, I never really have, aside from my own dogs, right? Because like in my own home is like where my dogs will like settle down and be adorable napping or whatever. But my clients' dogs, or when I'm out on a shoot for like a commercial client, all those dogs are like wide awake and running around like crazy, right? Because we're out in the world, unless they're puppies. I suppose puppies fall asleep sometimes, but no, if I don't really have too many photos of dogs sleeping, except for like a gaggle of Rhodesian Ridgeback puppies that I put up on a hay bale once, but they were like, I don't know how old, like 5 weeks old or something, and I put them all kind of together.
Gotcha.
They all fell asleep on top of each other. It was really cute.
But that I remember that shot. It's absolutely gorgeous. We have one more. Dale asks again. Do you ever do HDR bracketing on any of your shots?
No, I don't. I used to, when I first got into photography, man, I guess like everyone, when you first try it, right? I was fascinated by HDR. I did it everywhere. And I was like 7 shots, like I was going hardcore, like 7 brackets. Like I need them all, the exposures. Sometimes I go 9. No, but with dogs, it's hard, right? Because they move so quickly. I can't really keep them in one place long enough to make to bracket. So really the extended dynamic range that you see in my photos has a lot to do with adding light. And so then I can kind of extend the dynamic range and light the subject and get those skies in beautiful exposure.
Awesome. I want to end on this image here because sunflowers, of course, is a resilient flower for Ukraine, and that's where Skylum is based. So whenever I do something, I love to incorporate the sunflowers. Here, I never would have thought about putting a miniature dog in the sunflowers patch.
Yeah. So this is a Chihuahua. So I love playing with scale, right? And Chihuahuas are such tiny little things. It's really fun to have a small dog that you can kind of put everywhere. Like if it's comfortable, you can put it in a tree, you can put it by the flowers, you can put, or whatever, if it's well trained and comfortable. And in this case, actually, I was here in the sunflower field photographing for a big project of mine called Pitbull's. Well, it's like a Pitbull superhero project. I'm calling it Incredibles. And it's about amazing dogs amazing pit bulls that
are misunderstood. Yes.
Exactly. They kind of flip the stereotype on its head of what, a pit bull is. And they're like these incredible dogs. And I was doing one here, and this little dog actually belonged to the person who was helping me like do the set designing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And he was just there with her. And when I say set designing, I guess I mean, if you were to put a dog in sunflowers, let's think of sunflowers in like full bloom, right? So we're talking like 6 foot tall flowers. If you were to put pretty much any dog, maybe besides like a Great Dane, but honestly, that'd have to be a really big Great Dane for it to work. You're going to have a dog that's down on the dirt, in the roots, in the stems of the sunflowers.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? They're not going to be anywhere near where the good part is, which is way, way, way north of their heads. So we had to build like a platform in this field so we used like pallets. Those things that they use in like commercial kitchens for like dishwashers, which they're like these big plastic units and they all stack. So we went to a dumpster behind a restaurant and found all these old plastic stackable dishwasher racks that had been thrown out. And we got them and we built like a platform that was probably like 4.5 feet tall. And then on top of that, we put like blankets. There's like black blankets so that you don't really see the origin of like where the feet are. Now, I've got to tell you, the absolute God's honest truth about this photo is that you can see this leaf in the front here, this big green leaf. It was it was there, but it wasn't quite so big. So like I warped the leaf and kind of dragged it over top of where this little dog's foot hit the pallet, because you could see it was kind of obvious, right? That he was standing on this, like, it was a moving blanket with all these like stitches in it. And so it was kind of obvious and it took you out of the scene. So I warped the leaf and dragged it kind of like up and over, a little bit over the paw, so you could cover the telltale signs of the fact that this dog is on a pallet. And honestly, looking back at my little warp job there, I don't think it's that good, but this is.
You're gonna say that. But I love how you incorporated the blue sky with the yellow sunflowers.
Yeah, yeah,
just,
thank you. Yeah, that is, those colors are so striking, right? Aren't they opposite each other on the color
yep,
wheel? I think they are. So it like really psychologically really draws you in. It's a color, kind of a color harmony that works psychologically really well.
awesome. Well, all right. So now, I can't believe I'm
Are
gonna
you
do
bringing
this.
are you bringing me back up on this screen or what? Or
I'm
have
gonna
I
bring
been?
you back up in
Oh,
one moment. Ready, Kaylee?
oh, I'm so excited.
So I watched your video course before I did this for a friend of mine. Here's the final outcome.
That is so. Are you kidding, Vanilli? All right,
So-
tell me about the
So-
hat.
My portrait friends cracked up and said, "Oh my God, Vanelli has catch lights in the eyes. You actually
Yeah.
used a flash on this." Of course I did. So yeah, so just so you
Oh
know,
my God! Stop.
I will admit, I watched your course way ahead of time.
Oh my
Let's see if
God.
I have it. Here we go.
Oh.
Yeah, so these were with my goddaughter. We were just photographing some of those, but I wanted to show how I could use no flash whatsoever into this shot. Oh, here it is. And then the other ones I showed you
Uh-huh.
were we actually got the whole. Let's get to it
This is
right
so
here.
cute.
Yeah. So I'm
Oh,
sorry. So I
stop.
thought of you when I did these.
Oh my gosh, I'm so humbled. Listen, there's
And then that thank God, like I said, I had my son Snow, my friend Lisa's cat.
yeah.
My son took this shot.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I
Yeah,
love that.
So I think you met my son Alec before at Photoshop World.
I think
But-
so, yeah.
But I'll admit I was exhausted and I just handed the camera and said, "Go play." And he
Oh
looked
my
at me
gosh.
like, "Really?" And then he just started doing stuff like this, stuff that I
Oh my
never even
gosh.
thought of.
How
So,
beautiful.
My attitude on that, and I'm gonna stop sharing. My attitude on that is, you bring people with you on these sets, like your case, you and Sam, I think are an amazing team together. And he may see something you don't see, you see something he doesn't, and it's a collaborative
Mhm.
venture. So,
Yeah.
but now, Kaylee, oh, you know what? Let's see if I have your website again. One thing I absolutely wish I was able to do,
Mhm.
and I'm going to go right to it. And by the way, everyone, let me reshare again. I apologize. I should have done this earlier. There we go. Dog breath photography. So that's your website, right? And then for
That's me.
people, let me get this up real quick. There we go. So dogbreathphotography.com. And
Yeah. Or Dog Breath Photo. I think they both go there. Dogbreathphoto.com. Yep.
gotcha. And I'm looking over here, and Barb, I know she was so excited about all the events you're talking about with this. If you have the chance, I highly encourage to check out the Shutterfest or Photo Hound conference, or Shutterhound Shutterhound conference. That's going to be September 5th through the 7th in Las Vegas. I'm just getting back from, let's see, I'm doing this weekend in Seattle for Fuji, come home for a day, then off to Iceland,
Wow.
off to Scotland, home on the 4th. I am I got to check with my team if I'm allowed with that much travel. I really desperately wanted to hit this conference, because in this conference, not only are you speaking, but you have no problem sharing your spotlight with other people. And that's why I admire you tremendously, to where you're looking at saying, "Look, this is the way I do it. Here are some of the others in the industry that photograph it may be different." Once you know, there he is, the man himself.
That's him.
So this is awesome. So
Thank you.
so people, you can find out, like I said, more about this at Shutterhound. Just go to her website. And again, the website again is
Shutterhoundconference.com is where you can go to learn about this. And this is going to be so unbelievable. I am so blown away.
first time ever.
It's the first time ever in the history of ever that there is a dog photography only conference. It is the most specialized, specific thing, right? And it's with the absolute like rock stars of dog photography. I'm telling you, the people that I had in my dream list for this, I thought they will never answer my emails. There's no way I can get.
Oh God, you're killing. Of course, I answered your emails.
I
Half
have
of them
to go
learn from you.
I had to go through managers, agents, art galleries to get to these. There's so many gatekeepers for so many of these people. But William Wegman, if you don't know who William Wegman is, I imagine most people watching here do. He is the godfather of dog photography. He's been on, he started in the 70s with his dog photography. He's been on on the show with Johnny Carson. He's been on Sesame Street. He's been on David Letterman. He's a legend, and he I think he's published 47 books at this point. He's just an absolute legend, and trying to get a hold of him took me almost a full year of going through agents and publishers, and finally I called an art gallery of his who was so lovely to finally pass my name onto his studio, and they were like, if he's interested, he'll write you back, but we're not sure, we can't guarantee. And I'm like, oh, he's never gonna write me. But I just kept trying and trying and trying. And funny enough, I had the opportunity to not only, get him on for the keynote speaker of our conference that's happening in September at the Mirage in Las Vegas, but I got to go to his house last weekend, which was so crazy. It was so cool. And he showed me, he has a place, a summer place kind of by where I live in New England. And I got to go up there, meet his famous Weimaraners. They're so famous. It's so wild. Just my heart was in my throat the whole time. I couldn't believe it was real. I'm like, oh my God, I'm trying not to fangirl or like lose my mind like a little kid on Christmas. And he was showing me all the sets that he had built for all of his really iconic, famous photos. He's like, oh yeah, I was just shooting for Chanel, with all these clothes on my Weimaraners. And I'm like looking at the set and the clothes, and I'm thinking, what an unbelievable reality. And I am so beyond grateful. I have no words that he's coming to share with us at Shutterhound. It is going to be so unreal. I can't even believe it.
That's going to be absolutely amazing. But see, I think why people are drawn so much to you, especially at conferences, is what you just exposed right now. Even though you're at the top of your game, and how other people see you, how you see him, you still stay humble enough to say, hey, look, come on in, let me show you what I'm doing. You're not keeping secrets from people. And that's what I think is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
The other is you have books that came out already. So if people want to learn more, because you only learn so much in an hour webinar. If you go to the conference, you're going to be totally immersed. And for what you're doing is what we did at ClickCon, where it was all models. So you're just sitting there and models are walking everywhere. I can imagine in Las Vegas, you're sitting there, there are dogs and everything just walking everywhere.
Yeah.
So Las Vegas is definitely going to be in for a treat.
It's going to be incredible.
Also check out your courses on Kelby One and your books. Where people can.
Yep, I hate to say that there is no S on books for now. It's just book.
Oh, gotcha.
Wait, but listen, the dream is there. There will be more. But yes, Dogtography, a knock your socks off guide to capturing the best dog photos on earth. And that is on rockynook.com. I want to say they have a promo on it right now. I could be wrong. But check rockynook.com first. It's always great to support the publisher if you can. And then also it's always on Amazon as well. And it's literally my entire life's worth. I've been a professional working dog photographer now for just shy of 13 years. And this is literally every little nugget of knowledge that I've ever had about dog photography, all in one book, which is massive, by the way. It's like a textbook. It's huge. I should have had one. What a terrible presenter I am. It's just, I have a book in the other room, but yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty big. It's pretty special, and truly, like, if, for some reason you can't, do the Kelby One courses or go to a workshop that I do or go to the conference, the next best thing is the book.
Yeah, or here's Kaylee's telephone number. So, no, I'm joking. Just call her direct.
Call me.
So, this was absolutely amazing. And I want to thank our B&H team. These guys are just, it's so neat that they're doing all the technical stuff behind the scenes for me, where that I usually do all of it on my own. So having this team behind me doing all of the bells and whistles behind it works out phenomenal. And of course, the content of you presenting and your body of work is just absolutely amazing. So thank you so much. And for everyone else who's watching this, please, I highly encourage, check her out on her website. Look at her. Oh, there it is.
I got
Sam really got that for you, didn't he?
a secret Christmas elf came and brought it in the room.
or I'm shocked you haven't trained one of your dogs to run over and grab them.
Right. No, seriously. Look how big this sucker is. Guys, I'm telling you, dog photos galore.
Awesome.
Anyway.
Well, thank you so much. Is there any closing remarks you want to give to everyone?
I want to say that, like, truly, this is going to be a little cheese ball, but it's going to be real. It's real. If there is a dream that you have that, like, people think is pretty weird, and that they may not believe in right away because they say, well, that's kind of strange, and I've never really heard of a job like that before, or a career like that, right? Or if, like, somebody doesn't take your photography seriously, or your dream to be a professional full-time photographer, I really want to stress that this career is real, and it is so incredibly rewarding artistically. But I always like to say, because I think it's weird that women, especially in the arts, can't talk about, like, success, that financially as well, in the way that there are so many people in the world that want their dogs, cats, guinea pigs, whatever, horses photographed, because the photography is so meaningful for them and so powerful for them. And if you think that people won't pay you some very good money to photograph their animals in a way that only you can, because you see the world in such a unique, artistic way that only you can see the world as, I think that it's important to remember that, like, it is real. It is real, and you absolutely can. And I know that, like, mostly society wants to beat you down into something that's a little bit more safe, maybe a little bit more practical, if you will. I know that I faced that in my own journey. So I always just like to tell people, like, it is real and you can do it. And long live dogs. I love them all. Absolutely. They're the best.
But Kaylee, you said the most important thing is, again, they have to have luck. Laboring under correct knowledge, LUCK. And if you have the luck, it's because A, you believed in yourself and you labored under the correct knowledge to learn it. And in this case here, honestly, with what you're teaching, instead of them trying to reinvent the wheel, they see what you're already doing. Wow, this is what she did. Let me see how I can mimic it and then enhance on it overall. But that's at LUCK, laboring under correct knowledge. And you said one other point, which is phenomenal, is pet owners love their animals like their children. Our good friend Skip Cohen had me photograph Molly the super dog. And so many photographers have photographed his dog over the years. I had the honor of photographing. I was the last one to photograph her. And I just had this most amazing shot of Skip and her just hanging out. I mean, her kissing him. That's his favorite photo ever. And, to be a part of that, we photographers, we have an incredible gift to give the world, because the memories what we photograph now are the memories that they keep forever. So thank you for encouraging a lot of people to follow their dreams, and don't forget the power of your photography. All right. Well, hey, thank you, Kaylee. Everyone else, thanks so much for watching. We have 2 more episodes for this series, the photo art series. This one being, of course, the art of pet photography. We have landscape next, and aviation. I'm sorry, not aviation. How to craft your own styles. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you at the next Art of Photography series.
Thanks, Vanelli.
You are absolutely amazing.
Oh my God, Vanelli, you're so kind, first of all. And second of all, your Lightroom catalog, you've got this, like, big badass karate guy, right? And then you've got a Lightroom catalog full of kittens with hats. It's so cute.
We did photograph the dog with a hat on it, with a sombrero.
God love you. God love you, my friend.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank the B&H team. You guys are awesome.
Truly. Thank you guys so much for facilitating this. It's really awesome. I'm so grateful to be welcomed on to the B&H event space. I think this is, like, maybe my 3rd time, or something like that. And I'm just, every time it's such a blast, and I'm really super grateful, and I'm always happy to help if there's ever, anything that comes up and you need a dog photographer. I know someone.
You are it. And I'll send you the link when we're done. I'll send you a link to this. All right.
Cool. I'll share it everywhere.
You got it. Thanks again.
All
Bye,
right.
everyone.
See you later. Bye.